Hey, I'm a mechanical engineer, and this is my wedding sign. Well, not mine. So as I previously said, this is a wedding sign. My sister saw something very similar to this online, and since she's getting married in a few months, she asked me to build her one. The idea behind this is that you'll have this somewhere at your wedding so that when the guests come up, they can sign their name and maybe even leave you a short message. I think it's a pretty cool idea and can't wait to see it in action. But for now, let's get started on how to build it. Here I have a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood that when stood up is 4.5 feet tall and 2.5 feet wide. Now I am going to put some trim around this later on, which will make it a little bit larger, but not by a whole lot. This is basically as big as it's gonna get. Now my client, aka my sister, wants lights to run all the way around the perimeter of this to help draw attention to it and really just make it look more classy. So I went over to Lowe's and picked up 2 boxes of these LED Christmas lights. As you can see, the lights give off a pretty cool glow and the bulbs themselves are good looking and a decent size. So what we're going to want to do is drill holes about every 4 or 5 inches all the way around the perimeter so we can poke the lights through. Now lucky for us, the bulbs do unscrew from the LEDs, so we don't have to drill that large of a hole for them. But even with that being the case, of course it is still going to take a decent amount of time to drill out all the holes. So I'd highly recommend marking everything up first to make sure you stay on track and try to drill as close to the edge as possible without splitting the wood. Good luck, and I'll see you on the other side.
2 days later.
I just finished drilling out the last hole and everything looks really nice. So now I'm going to cut down some really nice 3/4 inch thick pine boards to 1.5 inches wide. Then begin to apply that as trim to the perimeter of the board, making sure to mount it flush with the top. With that, we can give everything a good sanding, then wipe it down with a cloth to prepare it for staining. But before we stain it, there's one more thing we're going to have to make, and that is a fold-out stand. For the stand, I just very simply cut a right angle out of an extra piece of plywood. It is a little over 3 feet tall and 18 inches wide. This stand will need a little bit more work done to it, but for now, let's just go ahead and stain everything. Here we are after the stain has dried and everything looks really good. So now it's time to mount the fold-out stand. To do this, we'll first flip the board over, then place our stand as far over to the side and bottom as we can without covering up the holes we drilled. Carefully pick it up, making sure not to move the base of it. And then once the stand is pointed straight up, screw down some hinges where the 2 boards meet. The reason why we did like this is so when you open up the stand, it'll eventually max out at a 90-degree angle, the board itself preventing it from going any further back. We're now going to want to take our dowel pin jig, drill a 3/8 hole towards the bottom of our stand, then insert a small 3/8 dowel into the hole. I'll now screw in an eye screw right across from it into the side of the frame. Open the stand back up, then tie the screw and dowel together using some heavy-duty twine. Now when we open up the stand, all we have to do is insert the dowel and we don't have to worry about it closing on us. Lastly, it is time to put in the lights. So what I'm going to do is take my light strand and unscrew every last bulb from all of the LEDs. Then insert the LEDs into the holes we drilled earlier and screw the bulbs back on from the other side. I had a few extra lights that I didn't need, so I just cut them off the strand, and now I'm left with 3 exposed wires. We're going to need to solder 2 of those wires together in order to complete the circuit. But the 3rd wire we can just go ahead and cap off. And really the easiest way to find out which 2 wires you have to solder together is to test them with a voltmeter. So now that all the wiring is set up, I'm going to take a stapler and very carefully staple over the wires, but not through it, all the way around the board to hold them in place. We can now flip the board over. And then lastly, push all the lights back down into their holes and hot glue around the base of them. And with that, the sign is finally finished and ready to be used. I'm quite happy with how it's turned out. The stand is very stable and all the lights seem to be poking out nice and straight. And since the stain we used isn't that dark, we could use both a black or white Sharpie to write on. You should be able to see both of them quite well. I think it looks nice and I hope my sister does as well. And there you have it, how to build a wedding sign. But hey, thank you so much for you guys watching. I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you did, please feel free to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. And Lord willing, I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching, and please feel free to subscribe.